This conference will now be recorded.
9 o'clock, stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting. The meeting is available by GoTo Meetings as well for viewing now or later date. It's Friday, January 3rd. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Jim made a motion. Is there a second?
I second
Pam seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
First up, we have treasurer's budget discussion. Thank you for being down here, Shannon.
Gonna start with the revenue.
Wherever you would like to start.
So, not a lot of changes. Well, there's some good changes. The overall budget, for revenues, I did amend it, just because on the first page, you'll see under after miscellaneous for the governmental services, as of yesterday, we were getting $10 per title issued, extra additional revenues to the county, and $10 per lien assigned, extra revenue to the county. And then for fee for new registration, we got our percentage, plus now we get a base of $10 for every transaction we perform for the state. So for instance, last month, which I'll come with the report, we processed for motor vehicle $500,000. We kept about 15. This is good. So in February for January is going to be a noticeable improvement in what we retain for the county. So in the 24-25, which is this current year's, it's the second group of columns, I have re-estimated from the fee for registration fees from 100,000 to 121, because that extra 10, we figure we do like 250 titles a month, so that's 2,500, and then of those, about a third of them have liens on them or loans. So then we get the $20 for each one of those transactions, and then for every issuance we do or titling of a new vehicle, we get the $10 base plus our percentage. So I figured that would go from 3,000 to 11,000 this year. So overall for this year's budget, and plus our interest, I had estimated, I always try to go low and then you can always go up. I had estimated 150,000 for our interest, and at this point we are at 245,000, which is 164% of my estimate. So I upped that to 400,000. So our revenue for this year is about double. I estimate 278,000, and it's possibly going to be 558. So that's last year's or the current year's budget. For next year, for the titling, I'm estimating 140,000. For the auto registration, 18,000. Motor vehicle mailing, postage goes up, so it went from 9,000 to 10,000. I know that when we had our last meeting with our mail service company, they said that the federal government told the U.S. Postal Service they, for 6 years, they were approved every 6 months to do a fee increase if they felt it was necessary. During this time, I think it's been going for 3 years, every 6 months they feel it's been necessary. So they projected that we are going to see an increase in postage every 6 months until that time frame for that approval is done. Interest on investments, I just put 200,000. I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, so that's on the second page. So total government services to residents total is going to be 384,600 revenue. Tax sale fees, that is just one. We have the tax sale the third Monday of June. When they register with our online, we charge a fee of $5. We can't take in more money than the tax sale costs. That's in Iowa code. So we just keep it to $5 so we essentially, the $5 has to cover what it costs to publish it in the 2 paper weeks. That's my only real cost for the tax sale. So So the total revenue for the treasurer's office is gonna be, my estimate for this coming year is $385,720. Based on last year, that's a 38% increase of the original budget, but it's 31% decrease based on what I projected to increase. As you know, next year, hopefully, I will be able to readjust the interest income to be about the same, hopefully.
So I use that as an example. Originally, for the interest, you originally had $150,000 when you started the year out. You did an amendment, brought it up to 400 because you actually earned more than what you figured on.
Yeah, and for the auditor, it's better to have it more actual, because then that, at the end of the year, which is working on next year's budget, we have a realistic number of what's carryover is.
So then, but you dropped it down back to 200,000 because you really can't plan for what's going on.
No. I think, I've had the last, he just sent out yesterday, was like 4.1% is what their long-term CDs are. So I've been trying to continue to ladder them and keep the highest interest rate I can. If it's over 5, I'll go for 12 months, just to make sure that I have it. Last year I started that, and it really didn't make a whole lot of difference, but just a slight increase in interest from CDs, but you don't know, I don't have a crystal ball. So yeah, I project that we'll probably be higher than that for revenue, but
Okay.
Any questions on the revenue budget?
You also get a, in one of these line items, you had talked about that the legislature changed out of county people coming. And
Oh yeah, our convenience fees?
if we get a fee for that, is that in one of these line items?
Yeah, that is under, driver's license fees. It's the second page, the second line. You haven't seen a whole lot of that. Like last month I had 2. Probably next month we'll have more, just because people have been home. A lot of kids come home for the holidays. But if they are in college and they technically still live with their parents or use that address, we don't get a convenience fee, or if they own property in Mitchell County and pay taxes. We do have a business person uptown that actually lives in Floyd County, but she owns the business on Main Street. So, when her kids come in, it's confusing for staff, and they have to keep things like, no, mom owns the property in here in town, she pays taxes, so there's no fee. So we don't know how that's gonna hit. Another thing that you brought that up too with the legislation, also as of yesterday, for the last 18 months, we had contiguous county titling, which means if we touch that county, people from Worth County, Floyd, Sarasota, because we notched down a little bit, any of those could come to Mitchell County and title their vehicles, first time. They get Mitchell County plates. And that was a little bit, they can choose what county they want to go to or where they work. If they don't want to take a day off work to go to their home county, they could come here and do it. Starting yesterday, it's the whole state of Iowa. Anybody can title in any county they want to.
Okay.
So some dealers, we may lose titling because some big dealers might choose to go to their home county. But I do know that like Mr. Otto does a lot of sales. We get a lot of those. He's already stated that he plans on doing the majority of his titling in Mitchell County. So they will start doing the application for title. At the bottom of the application for title, they have to check that it's gonna go to Mitchell County, and when the people sign the application for county or for titling, they understand that it's gonna come from Mitchell County, they're gonna get a Mitchell County plate. But we will get that initial one-time percentage plus the $10, plus the $10 for the title, plus the $10 for the lien, because the majority of his sales are
Minnesota.
well, no, they're not Minnesota, they're buy and pay here. So they all have liens on them. So the Minnesota ones will go to Minnesota,
Oh,
but like
okay,
the
that was my
Sarasota
other
ones
question.
and all the other Iowa ones, he has already stated the intent that he's gonna have most of them come to our office, so.
For example, if I was gonna buy a vehicle in Charles City and you decided to register it locally in Floyd County, I'd pick Floyd County plates.
Right. But when you sign when you do the application for Iowa title, which is the form that for our office that they do, right below your signature, there's a box that you have to have checked that says that Floyd County is going to process it, and they have to disclose that to you. And then when you sign the application for title, you're agreeing to that. So, and a lot of like the new used bigger dealerships, we have electronic titling, and a lot of them, it's not that hard for them to do it to the home county. But we did have a out-of-county purchase, or out-of-state purchase, and the dealer sent it to us in Mitchell County. There was some issues, we called the customer, they actually lived in Worth. So, and he wanted Worth plates and everything when we talked to him. So we have a stamp that we stamp the back, the checks are already made out to us. We stamp it and endorse over to Worth. If that's what they want, we'll send it to the county they want. So as a consumer buying a vehicle, you have a choice. Theoretically, yes.
So you just have to not check the box that it's okay to go to the alternate county.
Correct.
It's good to know.
Still the customer's right, but the dealers also should disclose that to the customer. I know that I had a former deputy that bought a new vehicle and it went through electronic titling and she didn't want it to. And she unfortunately was going processing the electronic titling, so she wasn't happy because it wasn't checked when they signed it, but it didn't get checked before it got in. So
Wow.
that does happen, but they
Yeah.
should be disclosing that to the customers that that's gonna occur. There will be legislation again to take the county off the license plates. Because like, the college plates don't have counties on, firefighter plates don't have county on it. There's a lot of plates that don't have the county on them. And it would be a lot easier and less stressful for customers that don't wanna have whatever county on their plates. And a lot of people that move, like they come up from different state, areas in the state, the DOT doesn't care what your county is on your plate, but a lot of people, you don't want to be the new person forever with out-of-county plates. So they can come in for $5 and get Mitchell County plates, but if the county wasn't on there, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Keith, I have a question.
I do have.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all these fees that are levied for registration and whatnot, are they considered tax or revenue? In your government, they're figured revenue.
Revenue, the legislation actually was written specifically that for these items, that there will be a $10 fee that goes to the county. They didn't want to increase the taxes or just the general fees. The fear was, we went 5 years presenting this to the legislature before it got passed. Didn't want it to be just part of the fees rolled in because, as you know, eventually there'll be future legislation that the state gets more of it. So
I
it
just
is,
didn't want you to get in trouble with the governor for messing with their tax roll.
no, we're
The
not.
revenue.
No. The legislature passed it, the governor signed it, so, but it is all earmarked specifically that it goes to the county. So it can't be part of a fee structure that at some point could be adjusted so that we don't get that extra money. And it's supposed to offset, property tax expenditures, which you'll see in my expenditure budget that this year I project that we will need 0% county levy for my office.
So the only tax is the sales tax on the vehicle itself.
Yes, and I will correct you, it's not a sales tax, it's a use tax. The Department of Revenue does it 5% use tax.
Call it cash.
Yes, they like the label, so it's actually, the use tax is 5%. So on the expenditures, get the right one. No other questions on the revenue?
Nope.
Expenditures, wages for the first line for motor vehicle, it only went up a minimal amount because before I had a higher rate deputy percentage of my budget. So my deputy that's under that line item is at a lower percent than my previous deputy. So office supplies, I left the same. Auto mailings, bumped it up a little bit because that is what we're gonna pay out of. School instruction, 2,000. We're at 320 right now, which is low percent, but I do have, Nora's going to driver's license training next month. And she's gonna start taking the classes to be a drive giver. And then also Janelle is going to the classes as well. Okay. I wanted to get them on board and comfortable with it. Janelle's already doing driver's license issuance, but she's gonna continue to do training so that she can become a motor drive test giver. The more we have, the better. We can only have one person in the office that does department rating exams, which is when an individual has an accident and either it triggers by code that they have to come in and do a knowledge test and drive with a test giver, or an officer checks the box. And the Department of Transportation prefers you only have one person that does that in the office, and that is Cassie right now, and it's gonna stay that way.
So what happens if somebody gets sick or has to not be at work for 3 months or, I mean,
In the department rate exams, we'd probably go to the state because when Cassie, if they fail with the county 3 times, then it automatically triggers if they go to the DOT, try to test giver. So we would call Kim in and she would probably do
I
it.
see.
And then they have the right to test 3 times with her, but I think we could ask them. And Kim's really good about that, so that would be the only situation where it would be an issue. Office computer maintenance, 1,000, and computer equipment, 2,000. I like to put it in there. This year is the year, every 5 years, I believe, the Department of Transportation allows a county to purchase 2 new computer systems. And so this year is our year to get 2 more. So Ryan's working on getting those for us. So we will pay them out of my budget, and then I will submit a claim to the state and get that back. Same thing with the training for the girls that are going to DOT training. We pay, they get their rooms at the state rate, which is about $50, and mileage for Mitchell County is a little bit higher, so I will pay them out of my budget for the room reimbursement and for their mileage and for their meals. They all get 2 receipts, and then we turn around and we send a claim to the DOT for reimbursement to Mitchell County. So a lot of that training they pay for because we are working for them in that instance, so that's kind of a nice perk. So motor vehicle registration license total revenue is 119.3, or expenditures 119.355, which is just a slight increase. Salary 76,000. I took my deputy from 84 to 85%, and then wages that went up as well. The current new hire in the courthouse on the first floor started at $20 for part-time, so I upped Nora to that because and she's great. She's awesome. She deserves it. She's bilingual. She works for the whole first floor, and then on occasion, Greg will call and she'll either over the phone or go over there and translate. So,
That's great.
she is an awesome asset for the Mitchell County period. So.
Yeah, we missed her when she was gone.
We did. You had to go back to our phone translations, and that just isn't the best. Office supplies, I left that the same. Publications, that's for my budgets and for the tax sale. And then telephone, 400. School of instruction, this is on the treasury side, so that's mainly my treasurer school and ISAC. But I do always split my expenditures for meetings between both departments because anytime I go to treasurer's training, we're talking about, the DOT always comes and we always talk about best practices for office for taxes. And 2,000 for computer equipment again, and then dues and memberships. So treasury management was 149,337 for the total. General basic fund expenditures was 268,692. General supplemental covers our insurance and IFRS and FICA. So the total for the 2 departments under general supplemental is 99,400. And so the treasurer's total was 368,092. If you go to the final page is where I have my little notes. 24-25, this current year's budget I was at projected, we levied 29.58% of my budget was county funds. With the increase in the interest revenue and the extra revenue from the motor vehicle processing, I am projecting I'm gonna have 35.18% excess revenue to go back to the general fund.
Excellent.
For 25-26, with expected revenue of 385,720, I project I'll have 4.79 excess revenue. There's no county fund levy needed, and hopefully the interest will go up as well, so we'll just have extra going back into the county funds.
Looks like a beautiful budget.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
So if push comes to shove and we have to cut stuff, my budget never got any county money, just remember that.
Keep that in mind.
No, keep that in mind, is what I was
I'll
thinking.
highlight this for
Oh, and by the way,
By
We
the way,
would not cut.
we haven't asked for any county money, so. And it's a great position to be in. I'm very, very happy with this, with the passing of that. And interest has been good.
In years past, if you had more than one deputy,
Yes,
but right now you just
I have 2.
Both of them are deputies now.
Cassie is my motor vehicle and first deputy and driver's license. So she is like my DOT deputy. Janelle is my tax deputy. So I have 2 deputies. Some counties have 3 deputies because I do technically have 3 departments in my office. So
they're both full-time though, right?
all my staff are full-time.
Okay,
I have
that's-
no part-time. And when I started, we had a part-time, but I spend a lot of time on the floor. I do
Sure.
issuance, I do processing. The previous treasurer just did treasurer stuff. And I feel like if I'm gonna be out there, if they're gonna be getting yelled at, I need to know what they're talking about. You know, I need to be able to back them up, and I've learned a lot, and I enjoy dealing with the customers and being able to help them with their problems, so. I just feel like, and I don't take that much time off. So,
You said the one deputy's 85%, maybe you said the other one, I don't remember, what, are they both?
my
85?
real estate deputy's at 80%.
80%.
She's my second deputy, yeah.
All right.
Just a quick, while I have you guys, are we planning on doing wellness next year? Is that the plan? So I'll bring the contract for, you guys to officially approve partaking in wellness. The requirement is to have at least 4 meetings with a board member on. Are you still my rep? Okay, so last year over 50,000. We can get up to a 5% discount if we do wellness for our insurance. And so this year it was $52,000. So,
Is wellness paying people to walk?
yes,
Yes.
so I'm paying for a newbie.
Yes,
Just talk to us, we'll get you signed on. You can already get on the portal,
okay, yep,
which is the ISACS thing, and you have to do an assessment, just a
Yep.
questionnaire, and then you do an EAP training, and once you complete that, ISAC will send you an email, and then you respond, and they'll send you a free Fitbit. And starting February 1st through October, for every day that you do 10,000 steps, you get $1, so up to $200 some dollars.
and that goes back to the county.
That goes to you.
Oh,
That's what the employee's carrot is to do it. The county gets just up to 5% discount on the premiums, which is the
that's
52,000.
awesome.
To get
So
more
where
employees.
does the money come from?
ISAC, they earmark it part of their
Wellness,
It's not,
wellness and Blue
Yeah.
Cross Blue
it's
Shield.
not levied money from the taxpayers.
No.
No,
Okay.
0 taxpayer dollars. We're saving the taxpayers 52,000 in premiums, the money that goes to the employees for their,
Which is huge.
if you do a physical, you get $100. That comes from our VOYA, which is our
Yep.
workman's comp accident plan. If you do a physical, their incentive is the plan is that, or the thought is, for insurance, if you see your doctor regularly, they're gonna catch stuff earlier, it's gonna cost less money on insurance. You see your doctor regularly, they're gonna notice you, and also you're not gonna be fearful of going to the doctor, so they want you to do annual physicals. So you get $100 to do your physical. To do the wellness assessment, you get $25, and then your steps. So, and the county has to get a minimum percentage of contracts on January 1st, contract holders to get those. So like last year, it was like 65% of our employees that had a contract on January 1st have to take the assessment, first to get 1%. And then the physicals starts at 65, and then every, like, 7 or 10%? It was 65 to like 85, where every step you get another percent off of your, or discount on your premiums.
Which is awesome.
So we've gotten 5%. I've been with Mitchell County for what, 12 years, 15 years back again. And I've been on wellness. I worked for that whole time. In 1 year, a year ago, we did not get 5%. But besides that, every year we've gotten 5%.
That's awesome.
Hopefully this year will be better. There is some issues with when people go in for their physical, they ask extra questions, they get charged for an office call. And ISAC is talking to Blue Cross about that. It is totally correct. That's what the insurance industry does. And our clinic does it, but we just gotta be aware of it. So some of them that are earning that $100, it turns around and pays for the office call that they're charged in addition to their free physical, so.
That's amazing.
So if you had a physical in
Right.
December, you can actually go right now in January and get another one and get it done.
Okay.
They can.
Yes, we're on calendar year, so it's January to December. It has to be, the physical has to be done by December 3rd, or by October 31st.
Yep.
And there's a form you have to send in to back summer email.
Yep.
That it logs, and then we haven't talked about it, but last year we did an incentive to track for HIPAA. If the employees do their physical and turn in this form so that we know to check the
Right.
list they're done,
That everybody.
then they get put into a drawing for $25 every
Yeah,
month.
some incentives to make sure everybody's on board,
Yes.
which is a good idea.
And every department or
Used to that.
outlying department gets a representative on wellness. Mark is the board supervisor, we have to have a board supervisors on it. Then myself, and then Lindsay is in the courthouse as well.
Okay.
Good. We got a good group, about 8.
Great thing to promote.
It's, I don't know, that's how much it saved us in the last years. And for families, family policies, even not just employee policies, everyone gets a discount. It's 5%.
Keith, got a
I
question.
got one thing.
Yeah.
I really like your County 66 Route 66 decor. It's unique.
When I retire, it will go with me because you can't pay for pretties out of county revenue, it's out of county taxpayers' money.
And
I've
you're
been
not
asked
going
that
anywhere,
before.
Shannon.
Who paid for all this? And I'm like, how do I, that's me.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing that.
Yes.
You're up.
Time?
I don't think we're going on a time schedule.
I didn't know.
I think once the other one's done, we'll roll into
Okay.
another one.
So these budget sheets I fill out for Rachel, did you guys get them?
Right here.
Yes.
Okay, well, I thought so, because that's what I always did. I didn't make a bunch of copies and send them out, I just gave them to her. I do tend to talk kind of fast, so interrupt me. Also, lawyers and judges interrupt each other all the time, and we don't make anything of it. So if somebody has a question, just raise your hand or say stop and just ask it, okay? 'Cause then-
I'll just,
Yeah, because we don't normally do a question and answer session at the end, we just interrupt each other while we go along.
Sounds
Okay?
good.
Um,
What page are you starting on?
Okay, well, I'm just starting on the first page of that, main one.
Okay.
That makes sense, okay.
The expenditures, okay. The expenditures?
Right.
Yep.
So, I think everybody here knows me or knows Mark or knows both of us. I always mention Mark because we practiced law together 28 years. But yeah, we've combined with another firm, so I can't forget those guys. Basically, we make money two ways. And I mean, I'm gonna cover this pretty quickly because county attorney's office is a bit different than other county offices. Because we're a part-time county attorney's office. So basically, as I understand it, with the County Attorneys Association, I think they consider this to be like a 20-hour per week kind of a thing. Well, I don't think there's any county attorney or assistant county attorney that puts in 20 hours a week. It's always more. But we make money two ways. We make it off of our private practice, and then we make it off of our county attorney stuff. I, for the most part now, function, I do county attorney work, I do estate work, and I do a fair amount of personal injury litigation. I used to do a lot of business litigation. I don't do that so much anymore because it is kind of like family law. It's miserable, it takes too much time, and nobody's happy at the end. So I pretty much narrowed things down. William is the assistant. He does a lot of the criminal prosecution. He doesn't do, does he do most of it? Depends on how you break it down. And a lot of juvenile stuff. He probably does most of the juvenile stuff. And then he also has his private practice too, right? So the way this works is, so like William and I, we get IPERS. Nobody else gets IPERS. So like we have, so our firm pays our own staff. The county doesn't pay our staff. They pay budget items to our office, and then we pay our staff out of that. So the only county employees at the county attorney's office are me and William. We get IPERS, nobody else does. So I spend about 30 hours a week on county attorney matters. William, the same. Actually, might be a little bit more, but, and there's different reasons for that. But, and then we have our support staff. Amy spends, this is the way this, I take, instead of doing an average, you kind of do a median, right? You like take out the extremes and come up with the average of the non-extremes, so you come up with more accurate numbers, right? So I try to keep things pretty accurate. So some weeks are going to be a little bit different, but this is the way it breaks down. Amy one of our support staff, she spends 16 hours per week on county attorney stuff. Faith, she spends 40 hours a week on county attorney stuff. That's all she does, is county attorney matters. Our firm did not necessarily hire her exclusively for county attorney matters. It's just that the way it is, that's just all she does. That's just all she does. Becky, she spends probably 8 hours per week on county attorney stuff. And, so that's kind of how that breaks down. Now, so the Board of Supervisors, as far as I know, has always been fantastic and supportive of our budget. I don't know that I've only been coming to these meetings 2 or 3 years because Mark Walk always did it. So I really don't know how he did it. I mean, I don't know his process, right? I never was involved. I just said, Mark, that's your thing, you do it. So, but I think it's probably safe to say, like right now, for example, I brought my glasses. I can't read all this stuff. So on the item for accounting, audit, clerical services, that current number
Jumped up a lot.
is 36,206, right?
Let me catch up here then.
Okay.
First page?
First page,
Yes, first page.
What was the title again? What was it?
it's,
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So that current number is 36,206. That number has stayed pretty constant for as of a couple of years ago, or 3, I don't know, whatever. It was about 28,000, which I think is pretty low. I think the 36,000 number, there's no private law firm gonna be able to pay somebody $36,000 to put in the time that our staff does. In fact, because we also do our private practice work, so we kind of know how that works. Let's just say if, for example, if we were to hire, for example, one full-time, well, this is what we do basically on the private side. Again, which is our staff gets paid by us. Not everybody makes the same amount. But if you were to take the average of what the support staff makes, it'd be about $22 an hour, which is probably still a little bit below the pale compared to other areas around. But I have advocated for our staff to get paid more, and they kind of are. But that would be like $45,760 a year, and then you'd have to have somebody else beside. So what I'm asking for is $47,220. And again, if you take a look at I'm not talking about the time William and I put in, the time Amy, Faith, and Becky put in, I still think that's a pretty good deal for the county. Now we can't do our job without those guys, and we can't do it. We don't sit around all week and try and figure out how time to fill for county stuff because there's no benefit to us, right? We take the county attorney work very, very diligently, and we do it very thoroughly, and I think we do it pretty well. But we're not gonna, I don't sit around and say, okay, Faith, you need to find 10 hours this week of county stuff to do because you're getting paid. No, we don't do that because we just soon have them doing the private stuff, right? Because it's like, look, if we got a slow time, which doesn't happen on the county attorney stuff, it's like, Faith, I'm not gonna tell you to put in more time on county stuff, do what you gotta do on the county stuff, and then go to the private stuff, right? I mean, so what I'm saying is we couldn't say, Amy, Faith, and Becky, you're just gonna have to put in less time on the county stuff. It's like, well, if they could, we'd already been doing it. It's just not particularly feasible.
Question.
Yeah.
So for that line item, you got your, the $47,000 is 30% over the 36,000
Right.
for this year. Last fiscal year, you used, when the year closed, you used 9% of that line item, almost 10% away from 100% of that line item. So this year, this is kind of a long question. So we're halfway point of the year right now. You've used 50% of the 36,000 that you've got in there for this fiscal year. You're halfway. So that 30% above that 36,000, is that going to be for increases to those people's salaries, or
That's
because of the cost of living increase?
break that down to you right now. That's interesting you bring that up. Okay. So, and I'll try and keep this answer short, but it goes directly to what you're talking about and a little bit about what my philosophy is, okay? What was it, 2-3 years ago, Mark Walk and I, we had our own I don't like to use the term merger because that's more of a statutory term, and we didn't do a statutory merger, but we did kind of a firm association combination with another firm in Charles City. So as a result of that, Mark and I, we're not partners in that firm anymore. We are of counsel, is what you call it, which is kind of when you say, okay, we're attorneys, we practice law long enough. I don't want to share any expenses anymore. I don't want to pay for any of that stuff. I've done it long enough. I want to bill my time, work on my cases, and I'm going to take a certain percentage of that, and I'm going to get paid, and that's the way it's going to be. So I'm an independent contractor with our firm, and so is Mark. So any money that the county pays, like for that item, goes to the firm. The firm, those other guys, would be Todd Williams, they decide what staff gets paid. Now, just in the last week and a half, probably, been going back and forth for a while. I told the guy that makes the decisions on pay, because I like to think Mark and I, we still hold quite a bit of sway there, you know what I mean? I mean, because we've been lawyers longer than they have, and we probably, they've got a good firm on their own, but Mark and I, we were lucky. Keith McKinley, Jerry Folkers out of Uckelberg, I mean, those guys left us a good firm. I mean, so Mark and I still have quite a bit of sway with what goes on. So I also tend to be pretty blunt. So probably a couple weeks ago, a little bit before, some people would say maybe he was throwing my weight around a little bit. And I started telling the other guys, okay, I want raises. I want raises for Faith. I want raises for Amy. And I want raises for Becky. And I put out some numbers. And I phrased it pretty much so I really wasn't asking the question. I kind of put it out there as, this is what I expect. And there was a little bit back and forth, and then as I get a little more blunt and a little more, this is the way it's going to have to be. One way or the other, it's going to go this way. Well, then everybody kind of comes on board. So to answer your question, those three people, I pushed for them to get raises. The plan is for them to. I'm also going to monitor that to make damn sure it happens. Okay? That's about all I can tell you, Jim, on that.
Okay, because my concern would be, we're asking 30% more of the taxpayers And I don't want that 30% to be going to Charles City to be used down there.
I do understand that. I understand that completely. And, you know, at the same time, you know, I always tell those Charles City guys, you know, I say, look, yeah, it's like on all this, like the other stuff, rent, copy, office, whatever, take your pick, research, all that stuff. You know, they pay all that, right? I mean, so like, take your pick here.
So for example, the rent,
Yeah.
so they're determining the rent?
No,
Okay.
I come up
Okay.
with that number.
Because that was a little bit of a jump there.
Yeah, and here's how I came up with it. So I have I'm dialed in pretty good on land values and rent values and everything. So I did some calculations. Then I got a hold of, I don't know, I got a hold of Colville too. I work with them all the time. I work with Maine Realty too, but I just always seem to work with Colville more. So about half of our office, I'll just shorten this up. And based on the square footage of our office, you know, half of the upstairs is used for county stuff, right? I mean, it's not like we break it down and say, okay, this half is for county and this half is for private. I mean, we all use the whole upstairs, but it's me and William mostly there, Mark's in and out. But he'd work downstairs. So upstairs, so we split our time. I mean, you could say, well, half the time we're doing county stuff, and half the time we're doing private stuff. Downstairs, I don't really work much downstairs. There's not that much. William doesn't work that much downstairs. Most of the equipment we use, copiers and everything, is upstairs. There is some storage downstairs, like all of our county files, you know, going back. Well, we don't have them all the way going back to the 60s because after a period of time, you can shred them and stuff like that. But otherwise, all the county files are stored down in the basement. So there's a little bit of use for county. And I did the numbers, and then afterwards I said, you know, Phil, look at this. So if the county were to pay, let's say like $12 a square foot for their share of our building, and they only use half of what is used, in other words, the rent could pretty reasonably, if we were going to charge somebody else, if we were going to associate with another lawyer, like another lawyer wanted to come to town, and he said, I don't want to be an employee, and I don't want to be a partner, which we may not let him anyway, but I want to be an association of attorneys, and I want to work out of your office. We'd say, you're going to pay us rent, and that's going to be $15,000 a year. And that's what we would do. And that would, you know, like Phil said, he said, yeah, that's very, very fair, very reasonable. Well, we're not asking that. I'm not going to ask that. I'm not asking that. I mean, I get it, you can't do it. So that's why I am asking, you know, for the increase. What the hell is that? 45%. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, 45%.
So that's why I'm doing that. I'm trying to I want to be fair to everybody. But there for a lot of years, safe to say the county got a pretty good deal on like rent and clerical stuff because we just didn't ask for it. You know, we didn't ask for the amounts that we were spending, right? And like now, you know, I mean, what we're paying our staff to do for county, this 47,000 number's not going to cover it. we're still gonna pay it. So we're paying that out of our pocket. Now, somebody would say, why? No business does that. I'd say, well, we always have, I guess, because we've got a private practice that tends to be fairly lucrative too, so you didn't worry that much about it.
I have just one question for you, and that the public might ask.
Yeah.
You have a complicated and, the way your staff is handling stuff. And I was wondering how you do audit. Do you self-audit, or does the county pay for an audit? In what you're doing as far as how your division of time and duty?
So nobody comes in on us. I don't know, the county gets audited. I don't know if our office is a part of that
The county
audit
gets
or not.
audited, and
But-
the cities get audited.
Huh?
The county and the cities get.
Yeah, they get audited.
And we have to
Nope.
pay for that audit.
Yeah, nobody's coming in and auditing us. But,
You're self-audited.
yeah,
That's what.
but if somebody were to ask, I could say, oh, no, I can pretty confidently start laying down numbers and say, nobody would accuse Murphy of overcharging. Well, everybody thinks attorneys overcharge. I get that, but I get that. But, so, and I also realize there isn't anybody gonna feel too bad for Aaron Murphy, William Brazel, Mark Walk, Todd Pritchard. I mean, we're all doing fine. But we are getting in that point in rural Iowa where everything, whether it be trying to get doctors, whether it's trying to get lawyers, whether it's trying to get whoever, is just a disaster. You can't get anybody in here. That's the whole reason we did this combination for the firm in the first place. We couldn't get anybody to come in and work at our firm. So we figured if we spread out the weight a little bit among an established firm, that would give Walk and I a way to get out when we wanted to, right? A way to walk out the door. We didn't have any way. Lawyers can't just close up the shop one day and say, I'm done. You have to have this exit plan. You have to have somebody to take over. And so that's why, we did this whole thing. But, you still try to make the numbers work and say, okay, we're getting paid this. Is this fair? Is this reasonable? Now, one thing, what was I gonna say? Okay, and somebody, and I know a lot of people probably don't always know exactly what's going on in the county attorney's office, but I was having a conversation with the judge recently for a very completely different reason than anything we're talking about today. But I was just talking about scheduling coming up. And she commented, she said, Mitchell County juvenile cases have increased a lot. And I said, well, yeah, they have, but she said, oh, no, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But she said Mitchell County's they've increased by about 20% since last year. Felonies, which are Class D felonies on up, increased by 68%. Now, those are examples where I would say, okay, are we having a 68% increase in felonies year to year? No. But so maybe this year was an aberration for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think one would say, yeah, the juvenile and adult criminal caseload, yeah, it increases probably 15% from year to year. I mean, and I've tracked those numbers. I've got some calculations. I didn't go back, years and years and years, but, if your average out would be like, yeah, that case is probably increasing about 15% a year. So I spend a lot of my time over here talking to you guys or advising the other county offices. And that doesn't even cover the time that I spend on the criminal and the juvenile stuff, which the time William does. What he does is exclusively criminal and juvenile stuff. I do some of that as well. On some of the more serious criminal cases, I always I may not take it over, because William does a pretty good job, but, you know, I'm also a little bit of a micromanager maybe. So on some of the serious felonies, I get involved and say, I'm either gonna run the show or I'm gonna run the show with you or whatever. You know, but I spend a lot of time on that criminal juvenile stuff. I just got a thing yesterday. We've got 8 criminal cases scheduled for jury trial on January 15th. Not all those can go. Probably judge is only gonna wanna do 1. I've already been kind of pushing for 2. I've said I can do 1, William can do 1. You know, we can have 2 trials going on here in Mitchell County. Problem is, they say, yeah, but we don't have the room to bring the jury in. We only have 1 courtroom that works for a jury. The other, you'd have to bring in chairs, so I don't know if that's gonna work. But that's what I do. So what happens is, generally, if most of the time, well, obviously you're going to try 1 case at a time. So the cases that are set that don't get tried, they get continued to the next time. Now these 8 cases, they're not all of the pending cases. They're just every couple of weeks we have pretrial conferences where you decide of your pending cases, which ones should we set for trial. This time it's 8. It's not usually that high. We don't usually set 8 cases for trial at a time. This time, the reason we did is because we've got 4 speedy trial demands. So they come in and they demand speedy trial, and you got to give them speedy trial within 90 days of when the trial information is filed. So that's why we've got 4 speedy trial demands. Some of those are either going to have to plead, they're gonna have to waive speedy trial, or have to get special dates. But, you know, I mean, I'm saying this just to kind of give you an idea of the time that we put in. So if somebody were to say, what are your pending indictable, meaning indictable or anything you have to have a judge approve to bring charges, anything other than simple misdemeanors. Somebody were to say, how many of those you got pending now? So this is the list right now. Pretty fine print. So, I mean, I point that out, not to brag or anything, just to say, you know, this takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. I do like it though. You can tell. I'm not gonna be. I can remember Mark Walk sometimes probably, you know, like we're somewhat similar, but we're also quite a bit different. Like Mark loves analytical type stuff, which I do too, but in a different way. Like tax returns, real estate, title opinions, loves that stuff. Loves it. Me, hate it, despise it. Like I can't do that. You can't expect me to sit down with this abstract for an hour and go through this. I can't do it. I just can't do it. That's why I have to do the other stuff, like this stuff.
We have about 7 more minutes, so is there anything else you want to cover before we have to go to the next one?
One thing I will say is I don't use health insurance. I'm not going to use health insurance. William, I don't think he's eligible, but he's not going to use it either. I've had different conversations about how let's just, all that stuff. We're not going to use it. We're not going to use it. Nobody's going to pay us. I'm not asking for it. Do have set up with a firm where how they compensate me is I get that addressed on my own. So, I hadn't put anything in there, and then Rachel called me and said, well, yeah, I'll put something there for the dental and all that stuff, which I do have. So then I told her, I said, okay, put in, because by this time I'd already sent the sheets over, put in the number for health insurance. I don't plan on using it. I haven't. And William's not going to use it. But I guess there could be some point in time where Becky and I decided we wanted to go on the county health plan. I don't see that happening, And I've talked to some of you before about why that's probably not gonna happen, so I don't need to go into all that. It's just that due to our family's medical circumstances, switching health insurance is not something I'm comfortable doing at this point. So I put that in there. I don't plan on using it. I haven't used it. The chances, and I can't give guarantees, I'm not gonna give guarantees because then it looks like I'm a liar if something goes different, and I'm not. But what I'm saying is, I cannot foresee a situation in the next 3 years that I would use the county's help. But I put it in there. Because I don't know. I mean, something could happen where I have to, you know, I don't know. I mean, what if our insurance company were to come and say, oh, wait, you're done. You're done. We've paid a lot of money for you guys because they've lost money on us. And then if that happened, then I'd have to say I need insurance. So that's why I fill that in. I want it
That's
budgeted, but we don't use it.
12.6, is that?
I
That's
think
the
so.
12.6 that you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You're referring to
Yeah.
the insurance.
Yep.
So
So that just stays with the county, as I understand it.
That just rolls over if you don't use it.
Yeah.
So you have an increase of 9.3%?
total,
Total budget 934.
number.
I talk fast, but I also always fill up the time. Becky says that's because I say needless, useless things that nobody cares about, which is probably not entirely untrue, you know? I mean, I think that's probably somewhat true.
Got one other thing here, the drug enforcement.
Yeah, that, I filled that out. I don't think we've taken any money out of that for quite a while. I don't plan to. That's drug forfeiture money. And Mark always budgeted some, so I always budget some, but I don't think we ever used it. One of the things I did, if you look at that, I've changed the numbers around a little bit, not in amount, but the numbers around a little bit, like it says medical and health services. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know what you would ever use the drug enforcement fund for medical and health services. I don't know what the hell that would be. I mean, the sheriff's office does because, you know, they have medical bills and stuff for people in jail. But so I just took that out and put some money in other places. I just kind of guess. Like I said, I don't think we ever take anything out of that. It's not saying you wouldn't, maybe. And you know, kind of the final things, I know I'm getting low on time here. So, of course, one of the budget items you'll see is like equipment, right? Computer equipment, stuff like that. We do use some of it. Well, I don't know how much we've used this year, probably, but because there's a little bit of a different philosophy maybe on that between like Becky and I. I sometimes am a little hesitant to, because anytime, if we buy any equipment with county money, like computers and stuff, obviously that has to be separate, right? I'm not gonna say it never gets used for a private thing because we're all together, but it's separate. It's identified, tagged, earmarked as county property. We have little sticky notes on it. Becky keeps a ledger. I think, you have to ask Rachel, but I think Rachel always has a copy of that ledger. And then like if you had like, for example, if there was an iPad or something that, you know, blew up or quit working or whatever they do, and you have to dispose of it, then you tell Rachel, we just gotta come up with this. Otherwise, if something were to happen, like if shop were to shut up, you know, say, well, what about that equipment they have that county money bought? Well, it's all tagged and logged, so that everybody knows. I personally sometimes think, you know, I don't know that I necessarily like that because it's not hard to keep track of. It's just, okay, my philosophy is, if we need a computer, just buy the damn computer. Buy the damn computer. We'll buy the computer. I guess somebody say, well, then you're not using the county money. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, like a laptop. I use a laptop, so it's my laptop. Herb didn't buy it, county didn't buy it, because I use it at home a lot. I don't want to get in that situation where it's like, well, you're taking that county laptop home and working on it all the time. It's like, well, I am. And you're also doing personal stuff on it, which I am. So I just kind of like to say, I just don't, for the most part. But I think we probably do use some of that money for computer stuff.
So you're charging more use of your computer systems, or kind of trying to guesstimate or estimate what, throw something in there for the use of that, to say if
No.
you had to go out and buy it,
Not so much that,
then,
because
that
we,
kind of thing.
like, that computer equipment number, and I'd have to, what we don't use, we just don't take,
Right.
right? So that number in there is higher than it was last year. But I don't know that we probably will use all that. I don't think we normally use all that budget item. Somebody say, well, why do you increase it? I'd say, well, just because that I rely on Becky for some of this stuff, because she does all the ordering and all the supplies. Say, how much is this stuff going up? Well, she'll tell me, so I increased the number a little bit. But, so there's certain things, for example, like computer equipment, service fees, inquest investigations, depositions, school instruction, mileage, stuff like that. I don't think we use it all.
That's something I question. You increased them, but you only used, like, we're at the 50% part of the year, and you only are at 18% of it used. Other
Yeah.
years, you only use 10% of it, but then you upped it for this year, so
Yeah.
I didn't question that.
That's just a little bit of a cushion, I guess, because I'm a little paranoid and I don't ever know what's gonna happen.
Whatever breaks.
So,
Any more questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
how you guys doing? Get out of your way here.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you, Aaron.
Have a good.
You too.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Fair Board.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come on up. Sit at the table.
Thank you. You probably
Yes.
best, but.
Yeah, just pull another chair, pull one of those chairs up. Good morning. Thank you.
For the Fair Board.
No, they always bring their own.
Oh, we don't give them one of those?
No,
Oh, I
we
thought-
always get their own little spreadsheet.
Okay.
Just
God, I
like
appreciate that.
conservation. They kind of bring in their own little pamphlet.
Okay.
No, we always get a sheet.
So how does Lindsay input this in, so Lindsay inputs this into the state system, that's correct? I mean, she would have to have the same kind of,
Well, we don't pay them wages. and we
Right,
don't-
right.
So like, it's just,
just the overall budget.
I don't want specific.
I don't think she has to enter all of this stuff in, I think she just enters.
She doesn't enter any of it into her system.
How are you? The auditor does. I don't know who specifically does.
Yeah.
This is, they provide this so they can show us what they're doing.
Yeah. Right.
All right, well, if you're ready, we're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got a couple spreadsheets for you here. One is the year over year kind of comparison, from our 23 year on the right to the 24 year on the left there. This includes the money we received from the county already for our new project, on the new barn. And, the second sheet kind of shows the disbursements, what we've done already with that money, the project started, in August, early September. Got the old sheep and hog facility torn down, moved the old show arena, over for a picnic table shelter, and got the site prepped, and luckily enough, they were able to get some concrete poured before it got too cold, and got the basis poured for the pillars, so they are able to get to the project over winter, is their plan. They're going to erect the structure, get the steel structure built. They said they'd be able to do that in the cold weather, and then finish, next spring with the additional concrete.
So they haven't started doing any actual building, right? Because I saw that they had.
Correct. The site prep is done to
Yeah.
where they can start to erect the structure. The structure is all there. It's on site. Just fitting in their schedule here as they finish some other projects and get going on that. At least they were able to get as far as they did, so we can work on it over winter. We were afraid that we were gonna run out of time and it'd be spring before anything could get done, so we're lucky that way, so.
When I talked to Randy the other day, he said they should be there within a week, 2 weeks. Get started on it.
Get an idea how long?
Well, they said it'd be 6 weeks.
Okay.
Especially in the winter, because if the wind's blowing and it's way below zero, they ain't gonna show up.
So hopefully the weather turns and we have a little bit of nice window for them to get some things done. It looks like it's gonna be cold here for a little while, but.
They do not work when the wind's blowing, swinging beams, he
Oh,
said.
yeah.
Right, right.
So, yeah, it's just, on the back of the sheet that shows the year over year, it kind of shows our change in exhibitors. We're held pretty steady with the number of exhibitors we had, for all livestock species. Kind of little synopsis on the barn project a little bit there. And then, that was kind of always a question from the board, previous years, is how many people do we think we bring in? And we've had that discussion several other times. It's kind of hard to quantify how many people we bring from outside of the community or within Mitchell County, but, just as an eyeball view, driving around the area during fair, I always like to see the numerous county license plates that are, not even contiguous counties to Mitchell County. We see these counties coming from farther away, and a lot of Minnesota cars, so it's always encouraging that way.
It's kind of important that you have a plan and being able to do that, because that's one of the things that allowed us to fund you the way we did this year. And we'll see what happens for next year.
Sure.
The board hasn't decided that, but that might be something that we always
And
need to know.
That's one thing we have, we are able to quantify it a little bit with like Facebook engagements. We do a lot of marketing on Facebook, through social media, so we can kind of track where those hits are coming from.
Okay.
And that we can kind of relate that to, okay, what markets are we hitting, and are we bringing those people from what areas? Then we just need to, have a plan to kind of do some sort of populate, an estimate of
Just keep that
attendance.
in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your grandstand, I don't see a separate line entry for what that's bringing in, and keeping in mind that that's also, covering the cost of your grandstand,
I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess-
experience, but
I
do
had
we
it on-
have any numbers on like tickets sold for Friday night, Saturday night?
I have every single night, I keep every running total. I
That might be a good idea
Open
to-
gate, the front gate, back gate, pit beer, grandstand beer, I keep all that. I have line items for all that I break out separately, so, and then the cost of events, so like for the tractor pull. The group that comes in for that, plus the 2 sleds that we have to pay, plus then all the different payouts that we have to
Right.
pay. So I have a cost comparison for all those, that I have the spreadsheet that I give to the guys every year after post fair, so.
Okay. So it might be kind of a good idea for us, along with the exhibitors, to see kind of that grandstand, because you're hopefully pulling from a wider area.
Yep.
Geographic area for those events. Whether they be pulls or,
Sure.
or concert events. So, that'd be great.
Yep. I know we've talked about trying to get the numbers of people, and I know like if you go to like a lot of the different counties, like Worth County, they have gates all the way around theirs, because our people can walk in from, and, you know, I can give you grandstand numbers, you know,
Right.
of people, but as people, you know, not everybody goes to the grandstand, some people just come
Right.
in and go to like the 4-H shows, or just come in and do carnival rides, and so, I mean, I can tell you that the Midway has been a lot more full the last 2 years
Right,
with the free
with
carnival.
the free, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't know
made
if we-
quite a difference.
I don't know if we could just take a
Just
drone up there.
Take a drone shot.
Drone
just
shot up there, like,
take an estimate of
daily.
people. That's about all. Nothing else we could do.
You know, because otherwise they can walk in from
Everywhere.
everywhere and, you know,
Right,
do it
any
like a
of the
head count,
entries,
clicker
yeah.
count. It's, you know, I can have them coming in off the grass, or
Yeah.
from the school parking lot, or, you know.
Do the carnival people give you any kind of input as far as their numbers, or do they never?
They don't, because it's free, they're not
Reflect,
really
because
counting,
that's their
they're not really
personal
counting
business.
in that, because they're not taking tickets at each ride. They
Right.
give us the feedback on what they're, because they are taking the money from the games and
Right.
the food. So they
So
kind
they
of give us an
can tell
idea of day to day, what
Okay.
that's like.
So if it's up or down?
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you an idea of what to,
Yeah.
what to include or not include, or,
No, that's certainly something we can add to that, just add a little bit more of the grandstand totals, so.
is there any plan to do additional activities down at the fairgrounds to kind of help support the expense of, you know, the additional hog building was a chunk of change,
Sure.
you know? Or have we gotten any additional grant money from outside vendors or outside suppliers, have we? Or outside individuals?
So I have on the bottom of your sheet, where all my budget has been paid out already for the money. So I have my, the Farm Credit Services of America, the Shop on State, the Foundation of Enhancement for Mitchell County, and the Worth County Economic Development Grant.
Okay, those are, okay.
Those are the
other
extra grants that I have received. I have the money for all but the Worth County. The Worth County, you do not get it until you show them the completed project with pictures and filling out a form. So I can't get that money, won't get that money until the project is completed. So then at that point, then I'll get that $10,000. And then below that is the donations that we have received from, one was the building contract, the building people themselves from Cedar Valley Steel Contracting. They gave us $10,000 as a donation back from the barn.
Okay,
And no, right now, we don't have anything scheduled, but that's, a lot of that is, you know, we don't know final timeline of when everything will be complete and what we can
Right,
throw in there
right.
yet in 25. That's probably gonna be more of a, get it complete for fair, make sure we got
everything's in its place.
where we need to be, and then figure out where we go for 26 for additional.
Because those individuals that are building the building, are they also installing all your gates, or is that installed by
That's gonna be
Fair
us.
Board,
That's gonna be-
volunteer?
That's gonna be volunteer
Yep.
labor.
reaching
us doing
out
that.
to?
Yeah, they'll get the structure complete, we'll have
individuals that-
some, you know, the electrical work done, and then, we will fill the shell, you know, we'll fill with the setup. We'll do the final setup with all those items later, you know, to get everything prepared, so that.
And that includes all that gating, and the final number includes,
Yep,
Yep.
the 796 includes all the gating, and so.
Yep, and we made a down payment already on the gating, so we have 30,000 that we had to send for a down payment, so
I see that.
we will get that. And that all the pens are removable, so that they will all be cleared out, so that'll be.
yeah, we can use it for.
Open
multiple
space.
different
So an open facility.
things. Yeah, we've rented out the fairgrounds to a couple different, groups here the last couple of years. One of them was the Iowa Trappers Association. They run at our fairgrounds, for camping and kind of a trade show, a lot of
Okay.
different seminars and stuff going on. Use some of our buildings, you know, what we had at that time for space, but, they've, you know, kind of expressed that they want to come back, and this would be a facility that they would use, you know, use that whole facility.
That
for
whole
there.
facility there.
Yeah.
So are we using the beef barn, are they using that anymore, or do they use that for campers,
Yes,
trailers,
it's full
boat
of
rentals,
campers.
that kind of
It
thing?
is full,
Okay.
and we have some currently in the horse barn, but as the new structure gets there,
It's sold
and
out.
there's a waiting list, and boats, there's,
Okay.
we
So-
have lists, so hopefully,
So will
So
that,
winter's-
some of that
yeah,
space in the
what-
hog
that-
barn be,
That is the plan, that we will utilize a lot of that space for winter
Okay.
storage, because, yeah,
that'll jump,
Yep.
It'll
generate
generate
some revenue,
Yep.
for sure.
which definitely will
Yeah, I mean,
make people smile a little
Yeah.
more.
it'll take time, as you know, campers, it's hard to charge enough for campers to offset that cost, but it's certainly, yes, it's certainly going toward
Okay.
toward generating that revenue for it, so.
I think it's a good building. If you don't build it, you never have it, just like the old one, that's what you've got, is an old one, so.
Yeah.
You'll be able to figure out how to utilize it more in the future as the word gets out that it's there, or other people are using it.
And you'll use your
Yeah, I think,
Facebook to
exactly.
to
And
generate that interest
I
as
think-
well, I'm
I
sure.
think we get to fair of
About-
25, we get to fair of 25 and people see it and then maybe
Right.
have some ideas of what they could, use it for, an off-fair event or an off, some sort of, something, and come to us and we can kind of brainstorm some things and we'll figure it out as we go. It's hard to visualize all that when we don't have the structure complete yet.
we have Jenny Sullivan uses the fairgrounds to do that, rural road.
Driver's training.
It's essentially all ninth graders of Mitchell County go down there and they get to sit in the semi and see what it's like. So that the new drivers know not to get too close to a semi or too close to a combine. So they actually sit in the vehicle, the farm equipment, and see what the farmer can see. So, if it's a rain day that she's got it scheduled for, maybe some of that stuff they could go put underneath the
Or
road.
just to stay out of the sun.
Or-
Just to stay
yeah.
out of the sun.
Yeah,
I've helped with that, and you stand out in the sun all day presenting, and little things like that, they
That's
don't really generate a lot of revenue, but it's a use for that building for the community.
right.
And
There's
protects our
that.
youth,
Yeah.
protects our youth, because, we are here for the youth and we want to make sure everybody, I don't know how many other counties offer that, but I think that being from a rural community, I think it's very, very wise for us to invest in the kids' future. And so not all kids grew up on a farm. There's a lot of city kids and they have no clue. And if they're going down,
Right.
Highway 9 going to Riceville and there's a combine going down the road or whatever, or even a semi, just knowing that not getting too close and stuff.
So that's an example where funding some of our services are not always impacted to bring revenue back, but it's
Yep.
actually to help the community. because
Exactly.
That's why they pay
Yes,
Mhm.
for services.
yes,
So
and
that's a good example.
yes.
Your ask for this year is,
I guess maintain the same if possible. I think we're sitting in a good spot with in our budget for our major, project we got going with the building. We're still gonna have our operating expenses for fair, separate from that, obviously. All of our,
So 35,000.
Correct.
all of our, free entertainment we do, and the free carnival, free gate. That adds up, and we have to, start booking those things here as we get into 25 and into some, spring and summer, and have those expenditures coming in addition to our, our capital improvement projects, so.
I'd like you guys to mention that, so you have the carnival coming, and I don't always remember the name of the individuals, but they want to come back, that,
The kids shows,
yeah.
yeah,
they're-
two kids shows that, are they,
Martin.
yeah, what's the, explain, what are those, like 8,000?
Yeah.
Around eight, there are two shows that we
Yep.
offer,
Yep.
those free kid shows that are every day at the fair, those are around $8,000 a piece. So, we get a lot of them, we're lucky to get funding, a lot of donations from community, businesses and things, but all of that kind of has to help pay for those items, so.
Do you guys have, sound system purchased
For the
for the
new
new
barn.
building?
That
Yeah.
is coming. Nolan and Chad are looking in, trying to get the whole sound system, and hopefully it'll be much better than what we had in the current old system, because we know how well it works in the hog barn sometimes, and
So we updated the sound system upstairs in the courts. And Dave has mentioned to me that it's just sitting back here.
That's right.
He said that if you guys wanted to look at it, he's more than happy to show you, and then you can purchase it for like a spare or something if you would like.
we can let Chad and Nolan know. There are
The audio. visual.
audio people, because I know nothing
It's
about it,
just-
but yeah.
It's just sitting in the closet, and he said there's nothing wrong with it, it works perfectly fine. I just think we just had to update it upstairs for.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, if you guys want to look at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know. Yeah.
Any more questions? All right,
Thanks for what you do.
thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you for your continued support, you guys, we appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You guys as well.
Take care.
Morning again, Rachel.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll just go on the list that's on the agenda. I think it goes in department numbers, so it's easy to find. So we'll start with auditor's budget. So for salary, we split my salary between the general basic and general supplemental, half and half for elections, because elections come out of the general supplemental. And the comp board, the stipend, I added that to the general supplemental, because again, that's the elections.
And well, we're just starting. You got $250 for walk-in challenge. So is that something that we're levying the taxpayers for to pay for?
So because it probably wasn't explained through the wellness program, so you can earn up to, it's just under $250 for your walking, that you get that $1 a day. So when we get that paid out, it has to come out of a line expense. So it gets paid out of your salary line item. Like, even though we get reimbursed for stuff, it still has to
Okay, so it's
come
just,
out.
so it's just a,
So in the previous years, I budgeted the exact amount, where then we were like negative 100 and how many ever dollars because of the walking challenge. The total fund was fine, but like that specific line item, because I was budgeting only the salary, not with the walking challenge. So I just added that on there to show, like, that's what $250 is from that.
but then the ISAC reimburses it
Right,
later. So in turn, it is not coming from the taxpayers. It's just,
correct.
okay, all right.
But we have to show it on both the expense revenue side, yeah.
So where does that show up on the revenue? The offset $250 should be on the revenue side then somewhere, right?
I have no idea how wellness receipts that in.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. Then the next line, and that's Renee's salary. She's at 85% of my wage. And then with the walking challenge. The next one, office supplies, that's mostly our copier, that we have there, 3,600. Telephone, 800. I believe there's some money in there. We roughly end up between 500 and 600 a year. I don't claim a cell phone in there, even though I use it. Next line item, same for our school of instruction. We've been pretty lucky with a lot of the classes that we take. It's not, they don't bill us for like the $150 sometimes that some of the classes are. A lot of ours have been free, which is nice. Dues and memberships, 500, keeping that the same. New equipment, that actually we're decreasing it a little bit. I don't know of any new equipment that we will need.
So can I ask here, so we talked about the new phone system
Mhm.
and, of course, seeing phones and communication on all these budgets. How are we planning on rolling that expense into the budget?
So the initial cost, I don't know if Ryan, I know Ryan's gone today, but
Right.
the I don't know if you wanna call it package, like the first initial cost would come out of IT. I think he
So that
said
comes out of their
yesterday he was
budget.
gonna double check on the monthly or what that, what is it called? Oh my gosh, like the one time a year payment that we'd have to do,
Okay.
the license.
Oh, license,
I think he
Right.
said that could be something possibly. I haven't heard from him back yet though,
Okay.
what that is.
So the new phone system would come out of IT's budget.
Yes, and I think that's something that ICFD kind of had talked about, making like those equipment changes or ordering things would come out of that budget instead of piecing it in everyone's budget.
so that was gonna be my question for you, so that's kind of the direction we're headed, that
Yeah,
IT is going to pay for computers,
right.
for phone system, for that stuff.
I would think the only thing that would come out of ours, and I could be wrong, would be like, would we pay for the license then each time, or would that just directly come out of IT?
Or would it come out of IT and you just budget a percentage of that to each of those departments?
Yeah.
In other words, allocate that expense out to, each of,
Because different departments are gonna have different numbers of phones.
Correct.
So somebody that has 10 phones maybe pay more percentage of the licenses compared to 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep, and I'm fine with that, we just have to figure out what that amount would be then. And at what point it gets paid, depending on when the project happens, because I'm assuming it's gonna happen at some point. Then is it that month then that the license is due every year? Just making sure we get on the right schedule, So,
Something to figure out.
yes,
Right.
Is
correct.
there any way, I know this is totally different, but we bought that package deal that we sold half the licenses to another county. Would any of those licenses work towards the phone
Yes.
system?
That's strictly for the Linux emergency system.
Then like I said, the new equipment, we got our copier last year, so I actually took that down. Next one is the other half of my salary, the stipend. Next page I have Lindsay, she's also a deputy at 85%, with her walking challenge on there. And then the next two line items, it's a FICA and IFR is just for Lindsay and her health insurance. And I know some employees don't know which health insurance they're gonna be on, so we tell them to budget the 14.4, which is at the HSA plan. Our office is all on the other plan, so I just budgeted the 12.6 that we have.
I just want to explain that to Pam just a little
Yep.
bit. So Pam, you notice Lindsay's, and she's coming out of the general supplemental fund.
yes,
Those other ones are coming out of the general basic fund. So there's certain things in the code that allows you to pull, we're limited to a certain levy amount in the general basic. But if you're at your top levy rate in the general basic, you're allowed to have a supplemental fund. And the code allows certain things to come out of the supplemental fund. And so elections is one of them. So Rachel has put Lindsay in elections so it can come out of the supplemental fund. There's other things in our budget that works that way also, that's an example right there.
Because she's like the elections deputy, so that's,
okay.
yeah, well, that works. The next one, you'll see election supplies is up a little bit, so thinking ahead, next year, we're gonna have like city school in November, and then we'll also have the primary in June, so once we get down to also our election officials, you'll notice that it's double, because we'll have 2 elections in a year instead of just 1. Publications, actually have it down $1,000. Printing of ballots, I think we should be okay with the same amount that we had this year. And then you have mileage, meals and lodging for elections. Usually April through June is kind of our busy time for classes, so I kept that the same. Same with school, we had kind of more probably elections classes, so I did up that a little bit. They are going to be having a new think it's a week-long training this summer for the new voter management system. So not sure what they'll charge for that. We don't currently rent any of our polling places, so that stays at 0. That next line item is the precinct officials. So you figure we have 4 officials at each polling location. Tues, we do have 5. They make $15 an hour. They're there from 6 a.m. till between 9 and 10, depending on when they're done. And then they have about 2 hours of schooling, and then that's again for 2 elections. And then we have 3 people that are on call, just in case someone gets sick or is unable to make it the day of. And the next one is our voter registration services. We pay, the fees have varied, as you can see. 3 years ago was $6,700, 2 years ago was $42, last year was $37. They don't ever really give us a heads up, so I've kept it at 6 in case they do, it goes back up for whatever reason. Our iVoters, normally it's between 2,500 and 3,000. Last year, it was only 1,300. Again, I kind of try and keep it at that middle spot, so just in, I don't want to say just in case, but another one that they don't really give us heads up on. New equipment, I did take it down just a little bit. I would like to, if I can get it in yet this fiscal year, I'm going to, but I do want to get 2 more tablets for the precincts, because right now we don't have any spares. Previously with the laptops, we always had 2 spares, but it was kind of a big expense at first, so we just made it so we have 2 at each precinct. Like I said, I'd like to have 2 spares just in case something goes wrong, we have something available.
Is that system working good?
Yes,
Okay.
and the precinct officials love it
Okay.
compared to the last one, so that's also nice to hear when it's easier on them, because that's a long day, so.
Yeah.
One less thing to worry about for them.
What's a portion of the iPods of that 12,000 roughly?
I think it was like 3,500
For 1 or for 2?
for the 2, yep. And then that comes with the carrying case and the 2 printers that are with it. Yep. And then the last 3 items are the FICA, IPERS, and insurance for Renee and myself. And so the total budget increase is a 5.72%, which is the raises and then the double election. You guys have any questions on that?
I did notice that a few of these items are getting right up there for year-end, 80%.
Yeah,
Or 91%.
and some of them are from the election. And so we will do a budget amendment because we are gonna have to have a special election for St. Ansgar Schools and Central Springs on March 3rd. But, I don't wanna say but, those, we'll do an amendment for the expense and revenue, because then those schools end up paying for our precinct officials and all the ballots, all of the programming on the cards that go into the machines and stuff, so that's just an in and out sort of thing.
Is that a pretty quick turnaround then? Once the election's over, they get billed or? how-
Yeah, once we get the final bill from everything, which we usually know, the last thing we have to do is figure out total hours and mileage for the precinct officials, which Renee does the following day, so it's usually a week or 2 after that we send that out.
I guess my question was, you're feeling comfortable then with,
Yeah, yep.
thank you.
I'll jump to our revenues, if that works. So we still have the line item in there, we'll make that inactive next year for the CARES Act for everyone. That was some of the COVID money originally. We have $500 in our miscellaneous fees. Most of that is just like copies if people come in. We do have $100 in there for internet map copies. So that's if someone comes in not related to the county that wants like a bigger map printed.
So if it's not like if I want to print a map of where I live in Osage, then that's what that's for, but if it's related to county business or whatever.
Yep, so like if you guys came in, you wanted a new map, we just print those maps. If Rich needs something printed, we print those maps. We printed a couple maps for the hospital too, kind of figure that's safe. It's another taxing body, but it's coming from the same thing, so we don't charge for those ones.
Okay.
But if it was just an outsider needing a random map of something.
Outside of Mitchell County, kind of?
Well, if it's outside of a Mitchell County organization,
Okay,
is that a good way to say
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Yeah, then we'll charge for that.
okay.
Doesn't rarely ever happen, but that's why we just have the $100 there.
Okay.
Liquor license, beer permits, have it at 3,000. Last year we received 4,000. It kind of varies, hard to justify, kind of pick with we've had a lot of like the wine slushy coming in and out throughout the county that adds money when they do it, but should be roughly between 3 and 35, I would guess. Passport fees, we did increase it $1,000. We've just had a lot of people coming in for passports, so. Plat book fees, we order 30 every year. I think it's a total of $780, and we charge what we pay for them. We usually have a couple left over, maybe 3 to 5 every year. And then we'll sell those at a discounted price once we get the new ones. So we're just trying to get our money back from them. And for grants for elections, that money was originally received during COVID when they had it once, so that will become inactive next year. And then the last one, elections, so that 15,000 is what we'd get reimbursed from the cities and schools after the city school election in November. So that's kind of a big increase from the current year for the city school. Any questions on that one? We might as well go to the clerk report. So I'll present this one and then in a little bit the court administration and district court. Stacy Olson actually fills all of these out. So clerk of court, they have one line item for $500 for the grand jury. And that's what they budget every year.
If that doesn't get used, it just get carried over to the next fiscal year.
Right, it just stays in the general basic fund, yep.
Is that general? Can that be?
I think it's general supplemental. General supplemental. So court systems can be in general supplemental.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Sorry. It used to be in general basic.
Okay.
Townships. So they, let's see if I do the math here correctly. There are 16 townships with 3 trustees and 1 clerk. So 64 total. They have 3 meetings a year at $40, which comes out to $76.80. So I could set it for that 8,000 if for some reason they turn in their meetings in like July that actually happened in April or May. That's the only reason for the extra couple $100.
Are those positions all full?
Yes. I don't think we have any vacancies right now that I'm aware of.
And
Kind of a thankless job, honestly.
you didn't do the revenues of clerk of court, but I don't think you did, but it's,
Oh, did
it
I?
doesn't, but it's,
Let me go back there.
I mean, it's the way it is.
Yes, so they have a $100 miscellaneous one-time revenue. And they put $2,700 for county surcharge magistrate district court, I think is what that stands for. District court fees. And I'd say they were right about that. 22 to 2,700. So they kept it the same as this current year and then the year before. Township doesn't have a revenue. Theirs was originally set up, they do pay a $10 bond every year that comes out to $160. I think that gets received in the 99 for whatever reason. We have the medical examiner, which might be my least favorite one to try and figure out because we just don't know.
The sheet was done, December 3rd, and we only used 29% of it, and I was thinking, why did we bump it up $5,000? But then I looked at the current ones that came out at the end of December, and
Yeah.
it's up at 64%.
Yeah,
So we're at 64% at the halfway of the year, so it really
it
shot
just,
up.
yeah, it just varies. So then that's gonna be, you guys approved like the medical examiner, so that's $100 every time they go out to do those. And then depending on if there's an autopsy, we have to pay for them to take it down to Ankeny and bring them back. So then that's mileage to the funeral homes. So that's the one that really kills you, because it's about 2,200 to 2,700 bucks at a time.
Yeah, two months ago, in the claims, I thought we had to be out of money. There was like 3
Yeah.
trips to Ames and $100.
It adds up fast,
Yeah.
but then sometimes you can go months without having anything too, so it's.
I mean, we might be over on that line item if we have some stuff coming up. But
Yeah, so like our one, the miles, meals, lodging line is, which there's no meals and lodging, but it's just that 413 code. So that mileage is over on our current year, but we still have quite a bit left in the inquest and investigations, so that's like the, or the, what do you wanna say, autopsies get put in there. So I added 5,000, we may still have to amend our current year, as it gets closer, we'll kind of see where we're sitting. And then there's no revenue for them. Court administration, so they are also subject to supplemental, and she did keep everything the same as the current year. So $1,000 in the psychiatric evaluation, $1,000 in legal and court-related services, $300 clerk expense, for a total of $2,300. Sorry, I separate all my departments out by expense and revenue. I don't think they have. No, they don't have revenue. So then the district court, they kept everything the same as well. $1,000 for magazines, period, and books, $250 for West Law, $250 for depositions, and $500 for sheriff serving notice, for a total of $2,000. And then we have the courthouse. So we did take over this fiscal year, Brian being paid from us versus North Iowa, 43 North Iowa. So for salary, I just added the 3.3% on there. It's hard to tell when we're gonna have, if Dave has a lot of overtime or not. So if something gets shut down on weekends, or if we have snow, that's where it's kind of hard to justify his. So that's why every year we just add the percentage onto his.
What about Randy? Do we pay Randy?
Nope, Randy just comes here, shreds
Okay.
for free. He just loves it.
that's a good deal too.
Yes, absolutely. Custodial supplies, I just added an extra 500. The last 3 years, we've been right at 3,000. Just over there, I should say. Uniform, Dave gets 250 every year. Telephone, so that's gonna be a couple lines in the courthouse as well as his cell phone that gets taken out there. That's been between 47 and 5,200 roughly. Utilities, I kept it the same at 26,000 for this year. You just kind of don't know. Building repairs, we have at 2,000. Elevator maintenance, I did up it a little just because the last couple of years it's been over the 5,000. If we do have to make any service calls to them, it's kind of spending. So talking to Dave, that's why we increased it a little bit. Furnace, air conditioner, I kept it the same as this year with 5,000. However, if we have something like last year, that was a little bit more. Equipment repairs, we have at 2,500, kept that the same. Plumbing repairs, kept that the same at 400. Custodial services, it's kind of the catch-all after what's not listed above. So we added a couple thousand on there. Last year without, I forgot to look up what it was, but we took a hit at 27,000.
Why such a, so we don't know why there's such a discrepancy there?
Well,
Because you were 5 and then up close to 7 and then we jumped way up to 28 or 27.5.
We didn't have to pay anything on the cupola, did we?
I'm pretty sure that's what that was, but I could be wrong.
On the what? On the what?
The cupola.
The cupola,
Oh.
that, some of that I thought was warranty work, but I don't,
We had to pay for the lift.
okay.
Yeah, that might have been in the other,
Keep it almost leaking.
Did we have the lift here like twice last year?
They did them cameras. So I used the lift for that.
So that was put under custodial services then.
it kind of, so some of the line items, they're so specific that that's like the catch-all outside of those line items. Yeah. Renee's looking up here. So I'll come back to that one in a minute. And then the bottom is the FICA, HIPERS, and insurance. Dave's the only one on insurance. Brian doesn't have insurance. That stayed the same.
Where does lawnmower come out of?
What?
His lawnmower, would that?
You know what? That's what it was, I think. Because Vicky did
That
get
was
that.
30, that was 30,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that was.
There we go.
But I'm gonna have her confirm just to make sure.
Can I go back to,
Yep.
the elevators? I know we've had discussion over a couple of years about somebody that might be a lot cheaper.
Yes.
But we're contracted with,
Till fiscal year 26, and I have it on my calendar to contact the other company. Because it's a specific, it has to be between like 60 and 90 days or 30 and 90 days that if you're gonna make a change. Otherwise, you like automatically get put back with them. So I do have it on my calendar when it hits that time period.
Are we with the one that's local, or are we looking to go with the one that's local?
Correct.
Go with
That's,
the one
go with the
that's
one that's local. Quicker service and it's a little bit cheaper too. Dave recommended them, so I think it's at least worth looking into. And I know we tried to, but we just couldn't with the contract, so.
So if I can step back for a minute.
Yep.
So you're saying that the difference in that custodial services is the cost of a lawnmower? Is that right?
I believe that's what it is. I haven't had Renee confirm yet.
So the cost of a lawnmower would be a depreciable item kind of situation. I would think you would have that more in your equipment line rather than a service. Because a lawnmower is a concrete equipment, piece of equipment. You know, I just, going from year to year,
Yeah.
I almost think that needs to be, you know, now granted, we can't pull it out of 23, 24s, but, you know, that shouldn't be in a service ledger account. It should be more in
Do we have any
equipment.
Do we have an equipment line?
You have equipment repairs,
We don't have
Yeah, we don't have a regular
But-
equipment.
but it would be more,
And it
you know.
would create a new equipment line item.
you know, or where, I guess that's my question is, where is the current equipment that the county is purchasing? You know, similar to, I'm sure Rich has his equipment in an equipment line ledger account.
So his truck, his snowplow, his.
Right, right, and a lawnmower would be similar to that kind of equipment expense,
And I
'cause-
would think if it was wrong, the auditors would have said something. They look at the inventory and like the capital assets and all that pretty
right,
close.
because it's a depreciable
And maybe
item,
we'll find out with the new ones that it's not right or wrong or whatever, so,
because it's,
yeah.
I wouldn't consider that a service, I would consider that an equipment purchase,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, that's just my observation there.
Yep, and Renee did confirm that that's the lawnmower on that one and that the rest is either Pollard's, Gendro, or
Which would be
Johnson's.
services, yeah. You know, those make sense, that,
So that one went, what is that? $9,100 roughly. So we added a little bit to the custodial supplies and phone, and then the elevator maintenance. And then the custodial services.
So your general services telephone, is that the bill that gets split up between all departments?
Each department gets a bill directly from OMU,
Oh,
and then Dave gets a stipend for his phone too.
To refresh my memory, on the second page, general supplemental, the insurance county share, it's 14.4. 14.4 is the HSA.
Yeah.
And the 12.6 is the
Traditional.
80/20 tradition.
Yep.
Got it.
And so for the departments that I kind of do, I've asked them what plan they're gonna be on, or if they plan on switching, so if they are thinking about switching, I'll put it at the 14.4. But if they know what they're gonna be, if they're gonna be on the traditional, I just budget the lower one.
Okay.
That makes it challenging too, when we have that in May, where someone can switch their mind within 4 months of what they want. Any other questions?
You want to explain to Pam, me also, for
Okay.
when all this gets put together and we figure out the budget and all the numbers are crunched and where we're at with stuff, want to just speak to that a little bit?
So we enter these as they come in, we enter them by line item, and then they get put into, kind of like you were talking, the different major line items on like our state reports.
Right.
And then we also balance it by funds, because everyone, for the most part, is using general basic. And then all of our insurance goes into general supplemental, then rural basic is another big one, but they all get combined then, and then we can look at our total revenue and expenses and look at what our carryover balance is gonna be. And so our goal for the carryover balances is to be between 25 and 30%. Then that will help with our expenses, because we get our taxes in March, but we need to pay then all of our bills up until September when we get our next. I mean, I know Shannon explained a little bit which will help. The fees that will be coming in with some of her transactions upstairs, that will make a little more revenue each of those months in between. But our big money comes in the taxes, so it's just having that carryover balance to get you through September. Once we get, which I normally like to bring my computer down here, that's why I keep the 99s to last, because that's the big one. But I can pull up some of those reports when we're in that discussion and show where we're at with those carryovers. So that's why we really encourage to be as accurate as possible on expenses and revenues, because over the years, we've had to really dig into that carryover balance, and then it just hurts us.
Are we under the state's, well, I know we are under the state's penalty from last year. We're using the formula reduced levy rate this year.
So I have some
correct?
good news.
Good.
So it wasn't very clear last year, I feel like. So we had the 3.5, and it got, I think it was like 3.39, maybe, that we were decreased because of our huge growth that we had. So this year is our off year for the assessment stuff, so we were at like a 1 point something% growth. So that doesn't mean that we stay at the 3.39. That means we can go back to the 3.5
Really?
and the 3.95, yes.
Wow.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
that was information. Yeah, that.
it was very confusing the way that they described it last year, at least the way I interpreted it last year.
Well, that's great.
So I did log in to check that out to see, because our valuations were filed, so I just wanted to see how that came out. But
So state that again, Rachel. So, we were at 3.5 and they decreased it.
Yep.
And now this next year,
Yep, so it all goes off of your taxable valuations.
right,
So from the 1 year to the next year, whatever your increase is, that's what you'll be decreased. From my understanding, the 3.5. But because we didn't go over that, I think it's like 3% growth, we were able to then stay at the 3.5. So I interpreted it last year that it was gonna be the 3.39 that we're at, and then this year, if we went over the 3%, then we'd be decreased from that 3.39 again.
That's what
But
I thought.
we go back up to 3.5, and it,
They kind of said that at ISAC too, that that's the way it was. So there's a lot of people that were misinformed if that's the case.
3.5 and 3.9.
3.95 for rural, yep, which will help our transfer to secondary roads then too, to keep that up from that.
so up to 3.95 instead of 3.
For
Rural.
rural, basically, yeah.
And transfer to rural secondary roads, we're at 75% on both of them.
We did 82% from rural, 83 at maybe, 82 or 83 from rural. And so that's what I have figured into the 99s. Yep.
Does that always follow the evaluation?
The
And it
transfer,
will from now on, and still will get that differential. If your evaluation goes up, you're gonna be allowed to go to
that's my understanding. It's all in there and
so it's here for forever.
we'll see.
Yeah, they already
I
said
don't
there's
know.
4 years of this.
Fiscal year 29, but from my understanding, what we talked about at our last district meeting was they didn't do what they wanted to do, or didn't do what they wanted it to do. So they might be messing with more things in the
Talked
near
to
future.
Jane Bloomingdale last week about this very thing. She said, no, it's here forever. Unless legislation.
And that's where I
Not 4
think,
years.
because of, it didn't do what they really wanted.
Right.
So I think they're gonna mess with it again.
They still don't know how to figure out how to make it be.
Correct. That's the issue. So it's like a game for them. almost.
Exactly.
Yeah, they
Just
messed the
scared.
rollover, or
The rollback.
rollback 2
And
years ago, that set us back.
they had what I thought a good rep down there. I don't even remember what county it was from. They said that we have this large fund that they're just sitting on that they could have taken and filled it for us all around and it would have been fine, and they voted that down. So, someone tried for us, but
Well, Rob Sands did.
yeah.
He said absolutely, they got more than $1 billion.
They had a $2 billion carryover
$2
balance the year they
Yeah.
did this.
He said they could have gave, I said 5 years, he said they could have gave
Mhm.
10 years, just, but
This is me off.
Yes.
Well, at least we're on a better track for next time.
Yay.
That's a good-
Any
good
more
thing.
questions for Rachel?
keep digging for good news, okay?
Yeah.
Keep digging.
You should have led with that.
Yeah.
Gotta save the best for last.
Our ears would have just been way perked up. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
All right. We'll adjourn the meeting at 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yep.